What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good day. Happy, what's today? Tuesday. Man, the days are rolling together as we are preparing to travel to Memphis here on Thursday. So, pretty excited. It's go time for the team, and we are looking forward to, what's to come. So, I'm excited about seeing how our girls actually put it all together and seeing how our progress has really grown over time. We have a really good group of athletes, and so if you're in the Virginia area, not this weekend, but when we do play, come out, check us out. I think you'd be pretty amazed and surprised at how competitive we are and how good I think we actually will be. So, again, thanks for joining today. I want to make sure I get the questions up that I have. I got some really great questions, so pretty excited to be able to answer them today for y'all. I have one parent in particular who has been awesome with sending questions, and so I'm excited again to just get into the questions and get answers for you. So, and if you have any questions, always I would say the day of I try to post like, hey, I'm gonna go live tonight. Make sure you send me your questions. Direct message me the questions, but you can also leave them in the comments here as well. So, all right, so let's jump in. So I have basically four questions I'm going to cover today, all very great questions. And so, question number one that I have is, what is the likelihood that that freshmen get to play in their first year? And I think that is an awesome question because what I like is that this parent is thinking not only about their athlete getting to play at the next level, but also like or getting recruited, but then also like playing at the next level. I feel like a lot of times we're satisfied with them getting the scholarship, signing the papers, taking the pictures, but nah, like their hard work is something that we hope pays off because they then get to play, right? That's the goal. And so I will answer this question from many different perspectives as far as like levels and things like that because I think that's always been pretty good of a way to kind of go after this. So, um, as a coach, when I am recruiting athletes, the goal for me is to recruit the athletes that replace my current athletes and make my program better. And so every time I'm in the recruiting process, what gets really challenging for athletes once they get to our program is number one, all of the athletes in the program are good, but also that they have to kind of have an understanding that as I am recruiting people, I'm recruiting people to replace them. So not only are they just trying to get there, but they want to keep their spot. But I'm also finding people to replace them in their spot. What does that mean? It means that if I bring someone in and they replace them in that spot, they replace them in that spot. If it's the best fit for the team and the program and our growth, they will get replaced. And so there's just this kind of for the moment until they figure out how to like be better in that spot. But I would say there's no limit to whether you're a freshman or a senior at the college level. We want the best athletes to play the best positions for us at the best times. So I think one of the things that I'm glad that she asked this question because one of the things I really struggle with not really struggle with, but like one of the things when I work with athletes who are transitioning into college, they kind of have this sort of phase of let me see how things go here. Let me try to feel things out and figure things out. And that would be one of the biggest mistakes I think incoming freshmen make. I think what needs to happen is, yes, learn the atmosphere, the dynamic of the program. But more importantly, you need to go in with the intentions of, like, I did get recruited to take someone's spot. So, how do I show up in that sort of way every single day? Not in a rude, disrespectful way, but like, to make the team better because that is what I'm here for. So I think there is something to be said about that, and I'd like athletes who can come in and actually do that. And that's partly why also when it comes to travel ball, when you have teams at 14U and above, I think if your team has 14 people or less, I think that kind of gives off a facade of like everyone, and the nicest way to saying this, that everyone doesn't have to compete for their spot. And I would encourage you to be on teams that do have larger numbers and rosters because what we're doing and what we're teaching our athletes is what they're going to face in college, which is They have to really compete and show up every day. They have to put in the work. They have to get better. They might have to do some private lessons. But all these things are going to play into how they grow and develop, and really show up for the college level. So get them in the competitive environments as early as possible. So I hope that helped answer that first question. And so the next question that I got was, should athletes look more at wanting to play for a particular school for academic reasons or for softball reasons? And again, I love this question because far too often our athletes are looking at this from a athletic standpoint. But again, going back to the goal of college is to get a degree. We have to kind of keep that in mind. And so I think, when we have questions where we're trying to decide between which one we spend more time on, I go back to what is the goal of the situation. So a few weeks ago, I had this kind of rant about, going to a college camp that you were invited to for the school that you say is your number one choice versus going to your travel ball tournament. And I said in that scenario, what is the goal of playing travel ball? The goal of playing travel ball is to get invited to college experiences to play at the college level. And so when you've got this opportunity, and yes, it sucks, which goes back to the 14 players or less on a team, but it sucks to leave your team hanging. But you also have to remember the goal of you playing at these levels is to get the attention of coaches so you can get recruited. So that would be that goal. So then the same thing we take when we think about the college level. What is the goal of playing at the college level? It is technically to get a degree, right? So you always want to go after the school for the academics first, and then you want to go for the school for the athletic ability to complete that academic goal as well. And so there are schools that allow you to do both, and there are some schools that will say to you, hey, like if you really want to be a nurse or a doctor like that, we're probably not a good fit for you. And there's some programs that do that, especially some of the bigger level schools, because of the demands of their athletes on their sport. They do sort of kind of stray away from recruiting athletes that want to be nurses and doctors and things like that. But there are schools out there where you can have the best of both worlds. And I would suggest searching for those types of schools, especially if you want a degree in more of like the science field or STEM field. So places like our school at Hampton, we are a very high academic school, and we have engineers on our program. We have architects in our program. We have nurses in our program. We have psychologists in our program. We have teachers in our programs. And honestly, like it can be challenging navigating their class schedule and practice, but we figure it out because at the end of the day, we want them to leave not only their sport, recognize that they're more than their sport, but also like we want them to maybe one day come back and give us a little money as alumni. So, little side note, little side joke there, but yeah, we want them to be able to get the degree. So I would say go after the degree first, or if you have to go on to a master's program, go ahead and find a school that will help kind of give you a foundation of what schools are great for that particular program, and then move on into that next level, and play the sport at the same time. So I hope that answers a question for you all. Again, if you have any other questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat for me. So let's go to the next question. Does it hurt an athlete in the recruiting process if they are on a travel team that the coaches are not putting them in showcase tournaments? And so, yes, my flat out answer to you is 100% yes. At the level that we want our athletes to be at, we want to know if your athlete can compete against athletes at a national level, from all over the country, because that is the climate of the type of skill sets or competition that we playing when they get to our level. So I don't want to bag any travel teams here, but I think, like, again, let's go back to what is our goal. If you want to play on a college team, maybe that, and I don't know many that are like this, but if you want to play on a college team where you just go out there and get the reps and hope for the best, then I would say play on a travel team that does that. If you want to play and compete with the best at the highest level, then play on a travel team that pushes you every day to compete at your best and play at the highest level, which means going to not necessarily showcase tournaments, but tournaments with high caliber teams. Okay, so I think I'm going to clarify that. Showcases are not necessarily the be all to that, but I think like at a showcase, more times than not, you're trying to present at your best. And we do work those camps, so that would be a good one for you to be a part of. So I think that I've kind of mixed that answer up, but I would say yes still, but make sure that that showcase is competitive. But if not, then how do you play in more competitive tournaments in general? I think that's the key. And so, when you are 12U and under, I think there is some room for developmental parts of this process. And there's developmental processes throughout this entire time that you're playing. But I think more importantly, how do we then transition in 14U to now be more on the competitive level where we're always growing, having to have pressure, going through hard times, bouncing back from the hard times, things like that. And then the last question I have is during this season, she's talking specifically about high school. So this athlete's in high school, and since all they're doing right now is conditioning, what would be some things they should be sending to college coaches or putting in their emails? And so that's a really great question. And I had a call a little bit earlier with an athlete, and we were talking about her strengths, and we're talking about some things that like because they're her strengths, you don't always think of it as your strengths. And I think what happens with our athletes is we run out of things to tell coaches or speak about in our emails because we don't necessarily think about some of the things that are key to us. So what I want you to do with your athlete is sit down with your athlete, and I want you to ask them what's their position, and then what is important about their position, like not only skill sets wise, that makes them good for that position, but also personality wise, what makes them good for that position based on who they already are. And so usually I'll give the example of a catcher. And so I would say as a catcher, like arm strength is really important, right? Blocking is really important, right? Pop time is really important. Transfers are really important, right? I would also say then what's also important about the personality side of things is, we're usually someone who has to be very verbal, has to communicate with the team, has to know what's going on ahead of time, has to know how to command the field. But more importantly, we have to have a great relationship with our pitchers. We have to be able to help our pitchers see the good and also help them when they are not doing so great, make an adjustment. And so I just named about 9 things that are really important to that particular position that as a college coach, I want to know that your athlete already knows they can do or is working on doing better. And so what does that mean? So even if the team is not practicing certain things, I would like to know what are you doing in your time to build those skills up. So when you're emailing me, I would like for you to tell me, hey, coach, I recognize that being a catcher requires me to be really great at communication and building relationships. So, this week, not much going on. We're doing conditioning. But what I did was I went out with my pitcher, and I had her, we were working on some things, and I was able to help her navigate some of her struggles with her screwball or whatever the case may be. And what I gave her for advice was, hey, maybe you're missing a little bit here. How to make an adjustment there? But like that short statement, but an email to me in an email form to me lets me know that you recognize how important your position is and the role that you play as a catcher for a pitcher. And so what do? You put that in the email, right? I want to see you then doing some things with your framing, right? Or your blocking. And it can be with a tennis ball at home. It can be, throwing the ball against the wall and blocking, right? But you can show me little clips of you doing little things where you're still navigating your strengths as that position to send to a coach. So like, there are a ton of things you can actually do, but we try to put everything in one email. And if you remember from a couple messages or a couple weeks ago, I mentioned like, please don't send me your life story in your first email. Although I know it sounds like it would be great and it seems like it would be something really great. I would just love a nice introduction of you. Tell me what position you play, what year you are, what your GPA is, and give me a highlight of a strength or two that you have that would make you a great fit for our program, right? And so these are things that you don't necessarily know. And I think we have now these generic email um, scripts that you can find anywhere that kind of give you like, here's what you should put in your email. And I'm going to tell you, you have about 3 seconds to catch the coach's attention. And so if you get to the good part of your email, the good part of who you are in your email, 2 paragraphs later, you've lost most coaches. So how do I catch them in the first 3 minutes? Put a video at the top, or put a link to a video at the top. Tell them a little bit about yourself, give them your strengths, and let it go, right? And so if you can continue to do these small snippets, there are a lot of things you can send during the time where you're in your downtime. So I think that's really, really important. And so, like these tips, and I would say other tips that we're talking about how do we speak about our strengths and how do we even navigate what it means to pull from what we already do to recognize really our badassness. I think as athletes, that's one of the things they struggle with is their inability to speak on the things that they're really, really great at because they either do them all the time or they don't really know if it's really that great because I do it all the time. This is a really important part of this process. And I think if your athlete is more shy and quiet, that puts them probably a few steps behind a lot of the other athletes who are more out loud and a little bit energetic and I would say influencers. And so you don't have to pretend to be something that you're not, but how do I help you point out the things that really make you really great? That's the key, right? So we've talked about today, how do we decide on what's, academic or athletics? We talked about today, what do we put in emails that in our downtime as far as travel? We talked about this concept of like freshmen taking over or coming into programs and how often is it for them to play. And we talked about this resets and routines and resilience in today. And so, just so you all know, like this is the things that like we talk about in the 360 athlete program. And so that's something that like for me is always a big goal. So if I can educate you guys on that as parents, that's the goal. And then, like I said, send your players over to the 360 athlete Instagram, because that's where I kind of speak to them a little bit there as well. The last thing I'll say to this, because I think, to really hammer in the freshman thing. So this year on Thursday, we will have one, two, three. We have 3 freshmen in our lineup, and we have another 2 freshmen that are pretty close to like breaking into being a starter as well. And so, what does that say? Not that our rest of our team is bad or anything like that, but right now they're really doing the job and they're getting it done. And so we'll see if experience works out better or not in certain situations. But we're really excited to really have those athletes come out. So for that, again, I want you to know, like, if your athlete can really get out of their shell and embody the confidence that they're destined to have, and know where to pull those things from, I think they're going to be in a much better place. So, any other questions before I roll out? Feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll be on maybe a couple more minutes, 2 or 3 more minutes, if anyone has any questions. But if not, thanks for joining tonight. I hope these questions and these answers really helped you. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. So any other questions before we jump out of here? Let me know. Let me know. I have to go into this. Oh, can you share details about upcoming prospect camps at Hampton? So, yeah, so here's the thing you should know about this. I do work at Hampton and I can't really intermingle what we do specifically at Hampton with this process, because this is my own personal page and my own personal business. And so I would say we have a website, www.hamptonusoftballcamps.com. It'll give you our update camps. There's none up there because we're about to have season. So we won't put anything up there until summer. But outside of that, I don't do anything to help build your recruiting process for Hampton in this space. So just so you know that. Steve, great information. I'm a varsity coach with 4 freshman starters. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Like the goal is to make the team better, right? So how do we do that? That's always our goal, and especially at our level where we are trying to keep a job and survive, we have to do sort of things and conversations based on that. So I hope that that was all very helpful for y'all. Any other questions? Hey, Miss Fields, good to meet you or see you. I know I've been seeing you around. I love your daughter. She's awesome. Looking forward to this season. Any other questions? And we'll jump out of here. Appreciate you, no doubt, for sure. Well, thanks for jumping on, y'all. I appreciate it. I know so for some of y'all it's pretty late down here on the East Coast and on the West Coast. Hang tight, be cool, and we'll see you again next week, Tuesday. Send your questions if you have them. Don't be shy. Ask any questions. I'm here to help you, and we'll get this thing going. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.